today we would like to introduce a special guest that is called Professor David Livingstone Smith. He is a professor at University of New England. He is also a author of 10 books, award winners, focused on dehumanization. He has given numerous presentations and public lectures on this subject in the United States, but in abroad also in the world. He is indeed a person that is recognized not only by philosophers, but also historians, legal scholars, psychologists, anthropologists, and others. And here is today to speak with us about humanization and the urgent building bridges action. So with us, please be welcome to the stage, Professor David Livingstone Smith. Thank you so much for being here.
Oh, thank you. Can you hear me, first of all?
Yes, perfectly.
Okay, that's great. So I just want to, first of all, say how honored I am to be associated with the Ubuntu United Nations. You know, past generations have made a mess of the world. And our circumstances over the next few decades are more challenging than ever in human history. And I really hope you all can do a better job than we have. I'll be dead and before 30 years are out, but you folks will be in charge of the world. And so I'm giving you my message today in that context. So I'm a philosopher, as Maria said, and we philosophers like to start with questions. And the question I want to start with is, well, we have the theme building bridges, but why do we need to build bridges? Right? We kind of assume that we need to build bridges as a starting point, but that's not the starting point. Because if we need to build bridges, it's because we are divided. And we can ask another question. Why are we divided? Well, I would like to offer you the following suggestion. We are divided as human beings because people in positions of power and authority have wanted to divide us. We are not naturally divided. But people who have agendas have convinced us of these divisions. And so we work to build bridges. But I think maybe the better way to think of it is that we should be working to demolish the illusion of division. Now, I've spent the last 20 years thinking about and writing about and speaking about really the worst things that human beings have done to one another. Genocide, crimes against humanity, oppression, war. And more and more, I've come to understand certain things about how to resist the sorts of pressures that are placed on us to support these illusions of division. Now, I use the word resist because I think that's very important. Good intentions are necessary. They're wonderful, but they're not enough. And to illustrate that, let me say to you that in every genocide or crime against humanity, every atrocity that people have committed against one another, the perpetrators had good intentions. If you go to Rwanda in 1994, if you go to Poland in 1943, if you go to Sudan or Gaza today, the perpetrators always say that they are trying to save the world from evil. So this sense, this having the right intention is very important, but it's not good enough. What we have to do is to find the resources to resist the lies that are told to us about human division. And here's, in my research, really something very, very central. The big lie, the beginning of the big lie, which if we take it on board, often ends up in slaughter, in genocide, and in terrible, terrible actions. That big lie is that groups of human beings are fundamentally and unchangeably different. And that some of these groups of human beings are higher than others. Their lives have greater value than the lives of others. And this can be expressed in all sorts of ways, through the language of religion, through the language of culture, through the language of race. So if we absorb these lies, and we've all been exposed to them, then we, whoever we are inclined to hold ourselves above others. And then it becomes permissible to treat others badly, to harm others. And at the extreme, to see these others as subhuman, less than human, to dehumanize them, and to elevate ourselves. We are God's chosen. We are the superior race. We are the highest culture. Now, I say we need to resist it. Well, how do we do this? Well, there is a starting point. And that starting point is understanding that every one of us is capable, when exposed to the right pressures, to engage in that sort of thinking and the actions that flow from it. So first and most importantly, we need to be able to monitor ourselves. We need to, all of us, to know that we are potential dehumanizers. And second, we need to look out on our societies and resist those who are trying to manipulate us in any way we can. And I would say, not so much build bridges as recognize that there, in reality, no gaps that need to be crossed, because in reality, it's others that have divided us, and we can stop dividing ourselves from one another. Then there's no need for a bridge. I'll shut up now. So if you want to ask me anything, you can.
Thank you so much. Thank you so much for these powerful and important statements. This idea of everyone can be a dehumanizer. So we have this responsibility to choose which path we want to follow. And Professor, you started by saying that we are in charge of changing the world.
Yeah.
We are the takers of the world. So I would like to bring here a youth leader, since he is also in charge to the world, Juan Cana from Venezuela. And he has a question for you. During this week in our social network, we were gathering some questions and Juan Cana made you one. So Juan, hello, welcome, and now the stage is yours. You have the opportunity to ask your question to Professor David Livingstone.
Thank you, Maria. Thank you, Professor. Thank you to all the other participants. First of all, your uh, speech was really wonderful. I have an important question about it. It's the next one. What are the most necessary tools that we should have as youth leader, in your opinion, to generate a reconstruction of the social fabric in the countries where the war and other similar countries have broken and polarized the civilization? Like, what is your opinion about it, and what are some of those tools? Thank you very much.
Oh, that's a very difficult question to answer. And if I could answer it truly, I would deserve the Nobel Peace Prize. I think local circumstances vary, right? So what's necessary in one country, it may be different from what's necessary in another country. Here's the thing. These are very complicated matters. And I would say this, the more vulnerable a group of people is, the more helpless they are, the fewer resources that they have. They don't have enough to eat. They don't have jobs. They don't have health care. The more easily they can be manipulated by politicians who benefit from these divisions. And I think that perhaps there are two things that are really, really important here. One is improving the lives of those so they are less vulnerable to manipulation, right? Doing everything one can to create a just and equal society. But of course, that's a problem because if people in power who benefit from injustice, then that doesn't happen very readily. So next, I would say helping people to recognize the degree to which they're vulnerable to manipulation. Because once people can recognize that, then they can achieve levels of solidarity that would otherwise be impossible. So again, it's a matter of resisting those who wish to divide us and finding like-minded people on every side of these divisions to work together.
Thank you so much. Thank you both. And I think we still have time for one more question. So we received a question on our questions and answers Q&A of Morgan Phillips. So Morgan, would you like to have the chance to ask your question to Professor David Livingstone? Maybe we can wait just a little bit so Morgan can show up, because he had a question that you wanted to. Here, Morgan. Hello.
Hi.
Be welcome to the stage. Hi.
Hi. So thank you. And I really appreciate the work that you've done on dehumanization. And I just wanted to get an understanding of how your own personal identity, how you navigate your identity as a white man in a world where racism and patriarchy have historically been used to dehumanize others. And so, how do you navigate these conversations with a level of sensitivity and awareness considering those dynamics?
Well, let me tell you this. You're absolutely right. Racialization, that is conjuring up the illusion that there are fundamentally different kinds of people arranged in a hierarchy, is very typically the precondition for dehumanization. So first, groups of people are racialized, and when groups of people are racialized, they're seen as lesser human beings. And dehumanization is, as I like to call it, racism on steroids. You said, well, they're not merely lesser human, they're less than human. I think the biggest of these big lies is the whole idea of race, to be honest. And I think if we really want to do something about dehumanization, one thing we have to do is get rid of the whole idea of race. People are different in all kinds of ways, but people are not arranged on a hierarchy, and people are not fundamentally different. So I, my wife and I both, she's also a philosopher of Jamaican extraction. We are we are warriors against race. I reject it utterly, and I think it's a very dangerous idea. And it was an idea that was invented to harm people. Let's be clear. You know, one group of people finds it advantageous to do violence to another group of people, and that gets facilitated by saying, well, you know, they are inferior and we can do what we want to them. And maybe it's even good for them that we enslave them and so on. From the beginning, that's what race has been about. And I really would love to say, I think we need to all get together and get rid of this toxic, dangerous illusion, but there's tremendous resistance against that.
Thank you so much. Thank you so much, Professor David Livingstone, also Morgan, Juan, who made the questions. We would love to continue in this conversation. We are learning so much, but we need to move with our program. But it was a pleasure listening to you, Professor, and also Mama Shamsa, the earlier guest, also co-chair of Ubuntu United Nations, that share this idea of treating everyone as equals. This idea of having races or people that should have more power, it's not like this. We should treat everyone as equal. So thank you so much for these insights about building bridges or the gaps, and this idea of first asking why, as Daniel, our partner, also brought. So thank you so much.